Clint Eastwood shares sad news on live television. A Hollywood legend stands at the edge of something most people never have to face. At 95, Clint Eastwood appeared in front of cameras and said something that stopped the room cold. Not just about the family he kept in the shadows for decades. Not just about the 8 children spread across 6 different women. But about the losses that have quietly piled up around him, the friends and loves he has outlived, and the one truth he has been carrying longer than most people realized. What he shared shocked even people who thought they knew him well. Clint Eastwood was born Clinton Eastwood Jr. on May 31, 1930, in San Francisco, California. His father worked as a bond salesman and later in manufacturing. His mother stayed home for years before joining IBM. Life looked stable on paper, but the Great Depression had other plans. Work kept slipping through his father's hands, and the family kept moving. One city, then another. New apartments, new streets, new schools. Clint kept starting over. Things finally settled in 1940 when the family landed in Piedmont, California, a quiet, well-kept area far removed from the hardship people imagine when they picture Depression-era life. There were no more sudden moves. But something inside the boy never quite settled with it. Over time, he shaped a different story about his childhood. One of struggle, of roughness, of earning toughness the hard way. The truth was more comfortable than the myth. But that myth became part of the armor he wore for the rest of his life. School did not hold his attention. He failed grades, broke rules, and eventually got pushed out of Piedmont High School after pulling stunts too loud to ignore, including burning an effigy on school grounds. He finished at Oakland Technical High School in 1949 and drifted into a stretch of odd jobs that went nowhere in particular. Lifeguard, grocery clerk, paper carrier, forest firefighter, steel worker, golf caddy. He was burning time without knowing it. Then in 1951, the Army drafted him during the Korean War. Instead of going overseas, he was assigned to Fort Ord in California as a swim instructor. Luck had its hand in that. And luck showed up again, dramatically, when a military plane he was riding went down in the dark Pacific. No life raft. Cold water. Miles from shore. He swam. Hours later, he reached land. He barely mentioned it afterward. Just another bad day, he said. That was always the way with him, absorb the shock, keep moving. When his service ended in 1953, he went to Los Angeles and used the GI Bill to study acting. He dug swimming pools, drove garbage trucks, pumped gas. He auditioned and was rejected. Then in 1954, he got a contract with Universal Studios based almost entirely on how he looked. It didn't last. Executives said he was too stiff, too awkward, too slow. They pointed at his voice, his height, even his teeth. After less than 2 years, they let him go. He stayed anyway. In 1959, he landed Rawhide, and millions watched him week after week as Rowdy Yates. Hollywood still dismissed him as just a TV cowboy. Then came Dirty Harry in 1971, but only after Frank Sinatra, John Wayne, and Paul Newman had all turned it down. Eastwood walked into the role at 41 for a modest salary and a share of the profits. The film earned around $36 million on a $4 million budget and launched one of the most recognizable characters in movie history. Controversy fueled the fire. Eastwood learned early that outrage could sell just as well as praise. His personal life, meanwhile, was running in several directions at once. 8 children with 6 different women. A daughter, Lori, kept hidden for nearly 4 decades. A long relationship with actress Sandra Locke that collapsed into one of Hollywood's ugliest legal battles, a fraud case that exposed how Eastwood had secretly funded a hollow development deal at Warner Brothers designed to look like support while quietly blocking her directing career. By the second day of jury deliberations in 1996, the vote was reportedly leaning hard against him. The case settled for an undisclosed amount before a verdict arrived. The damage, though, was already done. Children kept surfacing from different timelines and different households. Scott and Catherine from flight attendant Jacelyn Reeves, their father's name left off birth records for years. Francesca from actress Frances Fisher. Morgan from his second wife, Dina Ruiz, whom he married in 1996. That marriage also quietly collapsed, the divorce finalized in 2014 amid tabloid coverage of growing distance and strain. Then came the film work that redefined everything. In 1992, Unforgiven changed the conversation entirely. Critics had been suggesting Eastwood was finished. He was 62. The Western looked grim and the studio was skeptical. When the film won Best Picture and Best Director at the 1993 Academy Awards, alongside Best Supporting Actor for his co-star Gene Hackman, it did not just mark a comeback. It marked a reinvention. The film earned around $159 million worldwide on a $31 million budget. He was no longer just the man with no name. He was now a filmmaker whose work could be brutal, reflective, and genuinely artistically significant. In 2005, Million Dollar Baby won him a second Best Director Oscar at 74 years old, making him the oldest person ever to claim that award. The film earned around $216 million worldwide and survived a storm of protest over its subject matter. He had proven, twice, that his late career was not a final burst. It was a long second ascent. Then came the losses. In July 2024, his longtime partner Christina Sandera died of a heart attack at 61. They had been together for nearly a decade. She had, according to those close to him, been one of the few people genuinely able to pull him out of his own solitude. Her death hit hard and quietly. Son Scott Eastwood told reporters months later that his father was doing okay, but the word okay carried weight. A man at 94 who has watched that many people leave knows what okay really means. Then, in February 2025, the news arrived that stopped the room. Gene Hackman, the man Eastwood had called one of the greatest actors who ever lived, the man whose work in Unforgiven had won an Oscar on Eastwood's own set, was found dead at 95 alongside his wife in their Santa Fe home. Eastwood issued a statement saying there was no finer actor than Gene, calling him intense, instinctive, and someone who never hit a false note. He added that Hackman had been a dear friend he would miss very much. Those words, short as they were, carried the weight of a man who understood that the circle around him was closing. Variety. In 2025 alone, Eastwood lost both Hackman and Jane Goodall, who at 91 had been one of the only people capable of drawing him out of the house in the years prior. Two losses, one after the other, from a man who had already been carrying grief for longer than most people track. Yahoo! And yet, he has not stopped. On his 95th birthday, May 31, 2025, Eastwood confirmed he was already in pre-production on a new film, pushing back against rumors that Juror No. 2 would be his final work. "There's no reason why a man can't get better with age," he said. "And I have much more experience today. Sure, there are directors who lose their touch at a certain age, but I'm not one of them." Fox News. With Juror No. 2 in 2024, he had already made history by directing a major studio film at 93, the oldest person ever to do so. The production was interrupted by the SAG-AFTRA strike, paused mid-shoot, and haunted by reports of health concerns and sudden cancellations on set. When the film finally reached theaters, Warner Brothers gave it fewer than 35 screens nationwide. For a man who had delivered some of the most commercially and critically significant films in the studio's history, that rollout felt like a quiet burial. He pushed back against that too. When asked about the current state of Hollywood, Eastwood said he longed for the days when screenwriters wrote original ideas in small bungalows on the lot, the way they did with Casablanca. "Do something new," he said, "or stay at home." Variety. There was also a fake interview to deal with. An Austrian publication assembled old quotes and published them as a fresh conversation. The story spread fast, treated as proof that Eastwood was still charging ahead and mocking the industry. He called it entirely phony and denied ever speaking to the paper. Even at 95, his name alone could send a fabricated story around the world before the truth caught up. As he approaches 96, people close to him describe Clint living at an extremely gentle pace, spending his days quietly at estates in California and Hawaii, watching old films, reading, taking long naps in the afternoon. But the gentleness is deceptive. He is still working. Still preparing the next film. Still refusing to let time write the ending. Yahoo! His list of absent friends grows longer every year. Gene Hackman. Christina Sandera. Jane Goodall. Eric Fleming from Rawhide, swept away in a Peruvian river back in 1966. A lifetime of collaborators and loved ones who are no longer there. Surviving long enough to become a legend also means surviving long enough to carry a lot of ghosts. At 95, Clint Eastwood appears to understand that better than anyone. He has not made peace with stopping. He has simply decided, once again, to keep going.